Hey there, welcome to part 2.5 of my visual novel tutorial series. Today we'll be covering movement and the character movement specifically. Thing is, I wanted to have this in the last tutorial, but last tutorial was getting really long, so that's why we're having it on this tutorial as a part 2.5. So without further ado, let's cut back to me from a few months ago when I recorded this bit and let's get right into it. Right, now that we have character expressions and animation setup, let's go ahead and work on character movement. And what I mean by this is, say we want our character to move to this position of the screen. Maybe we want them to move to this position of the screen, maybe to this position of the screen. The idea is that we'd be able to move them throughout the screen. Let's get down to that, shall we? Now, there are multiple ways of handling this, but I am just going to run with the most simple way possible, which is honestly pretty good, and it doesn't really do too much in terms of a performance impact. So let's get into that. So let's say create a new script called character position. Create that. We have a few things to consider when it comes to the character position. Since Unity is like, even though this is Unity 2D, this is still 3D. You have 3D space being playing a factor. So say I have two Natoris. Look at that handsome boy. We have it here. They're pretty much on the same layer and they're intersecting with each other. So say I were to grab second Natori and move him back. Then he'd be drawn behind the one on the front. Do the same, Natori moves forward. Now we get this effect because one, the camera we have in the view, like in a 2D scene, is orthographic, so it doesn't really have perspective to it. Because yeah, the moment you change the perspective, you get a horror. You get a horror show. So we have orthographic, so it doesn't really do anything fancy with the perspective. So the moment, a Natori, for example, moves in front of the other one, there is no change in perspective of the shape. It's just that, hey, this guy's in front. Draw this first now. So even if you draw, even if Natori is like super far behind, it literally makes no difference because there is no perspective in orthographic. So like if you do this, if you move away from the camera's field of view, that's a different case. But more for the most part, this is how we'll be handling the draw order. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep like Natori 1 here as sort of like a thing for us to work with. There's no Natori. Yeah, let's just keep it as 0. No. Natori 1 is gonna be at the center of everything. Okay, maybe we should get that. Yeah, so we'll go ahead and center him. So be on top of the other of original Natori, and we want original Natori to move around. Um, so how will we do this? Simple. We'll have a character position. Now in Unity we have this cool little thing called a transform, and well, for the sake of simplicity, and since we are using Live 2D, we will be using transforms. So let's get started, shall we? In this, we're gonna go to, like, in character position, we'll just say float x pos float y pos float z pos. So the exposition. So in this case, the exposition refers to the horizontal position. Y pos refers to the vertical position. Z position refers to the draw order. Now that we have these values, we need to get a target position for our character to move to. So we're going to go ahead and say vector 3. Yeah, vector 3 target. Next, we're going to say a vector 3 target. The next thing we'll be using is a move speed, how quickly they want to move from that position to that position, like from the position they are into that position. So in this case, we'll just say alright, so I can actually cut this audio out. Should not have had milk in the afternoon. Now we'll have a vector 3 target, which is the target position we move to. Next, we need a float speed, how quickly we'll move from this position to that position. And finally, we're looking for a thing called float smoothing, which is the smoothing factor of how we get this. So, you know, how smooth the animation is, how smooth the movement is, basically. Now, when we start, we have to say target is equal to transform dot position. So what this is, it takes the game object it's attached to, takes its position. It says, hey, this is the starting position. I'm going to call it private. Grab this. The access modifier for these should be private. Generally, I'd suggest putting an underscore on them, but really you don't have to worry all too much about it. But I'm making my own convention here. There is that issue. Now we have like the target. Now we just need to define the target position. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new method. Call it public void move character, right? And move character will be responsible for moving the game object which it's attached to the target location. So what we're going to do here is to say float step is equal to, actually no, we can actually go over that segment a bit later, but the idea is, say, transform dot position is equal to vector 3 dot move towards, and the vector 3 dot move towards is essentially can require 3 inputs, which is the transform dot position, so the position you start from. Then there's the actual location which we go towards, so that's the target. And then there is the, what do you call it? the step. I don't quite know how to describe it. I just know that Unity really likes this. So go ahead and say step. Step is equal to speed times time dot delta time times 10. Next, we're going to go ahead and say we need a method to actually change the target position. What we're going to do is say public void set target, and we'll just say, oh wait, no. So what we'll be taking in would be, okay, actually I have a better way of doing it. So we're going to go ahead and say vector 3 target plus, which is the target we want to move towards. Say move speed. Yeah, so that is move speed, which is a flow. I'm gonna go into my function here. Just say target is equal to target position, speed is equal to move speed, and to make sure that on update we have the, so the whole thing is that it would automatically do that, automatically constantly be moving. And when it's at and when it reaches a position, it stops moving. That's how that generally works. And yeah, I don't think we need this quite here. We do not need this here. Yeah, we do not need this here at all. Go ahead and grab that, and we can use this in the script reader. Can take that out. That out. And with that being said, we have our character movement script. Now what we'll be calling in the movement script in our script reader would be the set target. So we remember that. We go in here and we go ahead and say public void set character move target, and within that we'll go ahead and say, hey, we gotta get the, yeah, so we'll just go ahead and copy this bit and paste it in here. Game object character find, so moving character name to position to, yeah, the position we want to. So now we need to make sure we get the string character name. It's one thing. Then there's float x pass, float y pass, float z pass. If I'm not mistaken, let's go ahead and take float move speed. Now we have that. So you have the character, the position to move them to, and then the position you want to move them to. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to create a vector 3. Vector 3 target pussy is position is equal to new vector 3 x plus comma y plus comma z plus. Now the next thing we do here is that we go character dot get component triangular brackets and say character position that, and let's see, if I am not mistaken, it's called set target. So target the yeah, so the target in this case is target position and the move speed is move speed, this value here, call it moving speed to make it a bit more clearer. So just grab that, paste that in here. Oop. And we have a set character move position. So I'm going to go and copy this, scroll up to my load story, drag and paste it in there, go down here, say underscore. Actually, no, we don't have to do that inside. Duplicate that and then say move character. Just getting copy this whole thing, paste it in there, which is string character name float move speed, and that equal to function object does not take 5 arguments. What did I do wrong? Let me actually do that from the beginning then. Character movement and say float speed float my set button is not in. I'm just gonna then grab this actually, for the love of God, Control V, move speed, grab the X position, Control V, comma Y, pause, comma Z, pause. Why do you not take 5 arguments? For the case of wave character, string character name, float move speed, float position. Alright, so I went ahead and did a bunch of stuff with ink. Oh, that is another explanation. So funny thing about ink is that in external bindings, you can't exactly go ahead and bind five different 5 arguments. But hey, it works now. My guy moves and hey look, 5 arguments. So let's actually I'll actually show you guys the real simple fix for this. So if you guys are not a fan of messing like of changing the code, at least messing around with the ink script, you can actually remove quite a few of the things right now. Now you can actually shorten the 5 arguments to 4 arguments, and that's by taking out the y axis from the equation. So what you do here is, well, go down to your set target movement, and you don't take the y position, and instead you go ahead and say, oh wait, yeah, this is an appropriate script, yes. So instead you say transform dot position, you say character dot transform dot position. You say character dot transform dot position dot x, position dot y, and this would actually set the position, and you don't have to exactly pass the y value. What essentially that does is it does not change Notori's y value, and it keeps him at that position, and it just goes ahead and changes the x and z value. Now the z value is what I call is again what I mentioned earlier to be the draw order, at least the thing that shows what first. So in this case, the draw order of -2 means that Notori is right up in the camera's face. A draw order of 0 is a layer behind, and a draw order of -2 is right behind. No, is of plus is right behind plus. Anyway, you get the idea. The draw order is the z distance. So what I mean by that is the draw order is a distance is this distance. Now you don't exactly see that distance on the scene because it's an orthographic view. But if I were to change it to perspective view, be prepared for some horrors. Perspective, yeah. So if you go ahead and take Notori's like z value now, and I'm gonna put this here, he'd actually change based on how far he is from the camera. So the camera is over here, right? So the closer I bring him, the bigger he gets, and the further I take him, the smaller he gets. Since we are in orthographic view, however, there is no perspective in this scenario. So so the effect ends up being that hey, he's right there. So there is no perspective. Whatever is behind him is rendered behind him. What is in front of him is rendered in front of him. There is no perspective anyway. That if that makes sense. So you can do that. You could do that, but I'm not going to do that because well, this is my series, and I want to make a comprehensive visual novel tool that you guys can use. Plus, also this is me rewriting my own code. With that being said, however, let's quickly hop back into what I wanted to show you guys. I hope my audio is recording, and I am recording. Yes, I am recording. That is amazing. So now what you're gonna do is you're gonna go ahead and go ahead and write your binding, and go ahead and like hover over this, and just go to bind like story bind external function. This is basically just a function in the story script Now, what you can do is you can just go to the story script, go to the story script, which, if I am not mistaken, is in ink, this editor, co compiler. What the heck is it? Editor extras inclibs, I think. Clibs compiler. You know what? Screw it. Just go ahead and see. Just look for the story file. So you'd have the story script, which is 2 stories. Well, that is complicated. Yes, no. So just look the appropriate thing. But if most of you are on Visual Studio, just go ahead and find the binding. Story with a capital S. Okay. They're both stored with a capital S. It was parser hierarchy. Yeah, there you go. Wait, no. So the story file you're looking for is ink runtime.story. So that's one we're looking for. And once you've found the script, go ahead and select find and then just say bind external function. And then it should take you to this little bit. So like if I go that, it takes me to bind like the bind external functions. So now when you get to this, you will probably be somewhere up here maybe, where it shows whereby it says, and yes, at the very start you'd have bind external function func name blah 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 length 1. Now what this does is that if you scroll down, you notice that there is a length 2. So this cut is taken into consideration when there are 2 arguments you're passing, and that's 2 of them for some reason. I did not read the code fully, but the implication is there. Like 3 for 3 arguments, 4 for 4 arguments, 4 for 4 arguments again. And here is my own custom bit that I wrote. Like I wrote this, where I just went ahead and copied these 2 segments, this and this, pasted them, and went ahead and said, okay, bind external function T5, function T5, go through here, here, and then you just add a line T5 and then argument 4. So this is a list of arguments. Make sure your length is 5. And I'm just going to go ahead and leave this up on the screen right now. I just recommend you go over this and compare, like just go ahead and figure this out. Not that complicated, and well, you didn't have to spend hours doing it. Anyway, now that we have that set up, now that we have that set up, you can comfortably pass 5. You can comfortably pass 5 arguments, and if you and later down the line, if you want to get down to 6, which I really wouldn't recommend. It's long and complicated, and definitely not something you'll remember. But if you are a developer, you'll probably know what you're doing with that. So there you go. So now after you've done that, after you've created a binding, just go into external, go to character target, character name, movement speed, X position, Y position, Z position. Now the X position is horizontal pass, Y position is vertical pass, and Z position is the draw order. So there we go. Ta-da! Just go ahead and do that, and voila. The code, of course, is in the description as usual. And with that being said, what more can we ask for? We have a beautiful script. We have a beautiful script that we can work with. Now you can actually get very creative with your. Whoop. All right, so this is what I mean, right? Actually get very creative with your code. Make sure I've clicked it. You can get very creative with your code and make it set up inside in any way you want. You can actually create cool methods that go ahead and change that go ahead and change things like name tag, like the name tag, and like you can actually put set the name tag with the with something with maybe an animation maybe. And the idea here is that you can get creative with your code instead of following my work step by step. The idea with tutorials is that the creator wants you to try something out and learn. So in our case, I'd say go ahead and take what you've learned from this tutorial series. If you want, watch it back. I've explained my I've explained my code to an extent. I'm not the best teacher out there, but I have tried explaining it. So go ahead and give it a go. With that being said, however, I wish you all a very good evening and thank you for watching.